All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Kirsten Dickers, for those of you who maybe haven't met me before, and I'm head of sixth form here at Oxford International College, Brighton. And I wanted to talk this morning specifically about the process for our Year 13 students and the process for UCAS offers and what happens on results day. So it's going to be very much targeted at UCAS because most of our students have applied to UK universities. The process for those of them who have also applied overseas is a little different and a little bit more bespoke. So I'm not going to talk so much about that, but what I will say at this point is that the key thing, if they are applying overseas and if they are holding offers from universities maybe in the US or in Hong Kong or in Canada, is for the students to keep in touch with me and communicate over the summer and make sure that I know exactly what they need me to do for them. So, for example, if they need me to prepare a transcript of their results to send to a university overseas, I can easily do that. I am aware that some universities will accept a school transcript and some won't. Some of them will expect to see their results that they get through our student portal. So it just depends on the university, but if they communicate with me, then I will be able to help them with that. So I'm going to talk a bit more about the UCAS process today. This is all information that I have already shared with students. I gave a talk to them before the Easter break, so all of them should be aware of this. But again, if any of your children are not aware and need support, please do ask them to come and talk to me. So what I've shared with the students already is about the next things they need to do. So first of all, key dates and deadlines, how they need to accept their how the evidence they might need to provide to universities and what happens on results day and how to prepare for that. So just some key dates. We're very close now to the deadline for universities to make decisions. And I'm aware that most students have heard from me all of their choices now. Universities tend to be very slow. So universities have until the 14th of May to decide whether or not to offer a place. Students don't have to make any decisions yet, and they certainly don't have to decide until they've heard back from all of their choices. Once they have, they then have until Thursday, the 5th of June to reply to their offers. If they still haven't replied after the 5th of June, then UCAS automatically declines all their offers for them. So it's really important that they meet that deadline. And then A-level results day is going to be Thursday, the 14th of August. So that's when the results will be published. So in terms of accepting offers, in the UK, that's quite a straightforward process, and they do it through their UCAS account. So they all have a UCAS account. Have received 4 or 5 letters apply to their offers there. They will accept 2 offers and decline the remaining ones. And so what they do is they have to accept a firm choice and an insurance choice. The firm choice should be the offer they have that they most want to go to. And what I've said to students is that of course, they're going to want to be ambitious with that choice. Of course, they're going to pick one that they feel is the one that they really, really want to go to. And I know that in some cases that also has quite serious career implications for them in terms of which universities companies are happy to employ people from. What I have said to students is it's important to be realistic as well. Accepting a firm choice that is way above the grades that they feel they can realistically achieve is not necessarily recommended and could leave them with less choice on results day if they don't meet the offer. So I think it's good to be ambitious and to be optimistic and aim high, but also to make sure that they are thinking realistically about what they're going to achieve. And please do keep in mind as well that firm choice, it there will often be not just academic conditions in terms of A-level grades, but also in terms of English language requirements, and those are really important too. I have in the past at a previous school had a student who was actually rejected by Cambridge University, despite the fact that she'd exceeded her offer conditions in terms of her A-level grades, because she hadn't met the English language requirement. So that is a really important part of their consideration. So the firm choice should be the one that they most want to go to. The insurance choice is effectively a backup choice. It should be a lower offer so that if they don't achieve the grades of their firm choice, they have a backup that they can go to. And I think it's important to make those decisions together. So for example, if somebody is picking quite an ambitious firm choice, I think it would be sensible then to have quite a safe backup choice to make sure that if they don't meet the firm choice, they definitely have a backup choice that they can go to. One thing to keep in mind this year, in particular from now on, is that universities may be a bit less flexible than they have been in the past. So we are aware that in the past, some students have been accepted by their firm or insurance choice, even if they don't quite meet the offer conditions. That does depend very much on the university. To be honest, it's much less likely at the most selective universities. They tend to stick to their entry requirements. Other universities have historically been a little bit more flexible on that, but we are concerned this year. There have been some changes to UKVI requirements and regulations on universities in terms of students meeting the academic requirements, and that might mean that universities are not able to be as flexible about missed offers. So that does mean that students do need to think really carefully about their firm and insurance choices. Because of that, we're asking students before they make that decision to meet with their strategy tutor and discuss their offers. And the strategy tutor will then give the student our strategic recommendation. That's based on our knowledge of their academic trajectory, but also our understanding of the university admissions process. That is not a binding recommendation, it is the student's decision, but we are going to ask them to listen to our advice and consider that before they make their final decision, so that we feel that we've been able to give them the best advice we can on the best strategy for them as an individual. Once students have received and accepted offers, they then need to think about providing evidence to the universities, because there are various pieces of evidence that universities might ask for. First thing they might ask for is evidence of previous qualifications. Just to say, they don't, if they're applying in the UK, they don't need to worry about their A-level results. Those are sent automatically to the university. So those are transmitted via UCAS without the student needing to do anything. But universities might ask to see evidence of previous qualifications. So for example, they might say that they want to see the student's GCSE certificates, or they might want to see evidence of a particular GCSE, like a grade in English. And so students will need to send those. Usually they either will be asked to email those to the university, or a lot of universities these days have an applicant portal, and they might be asked to upload the information there. They might be asked to send evidence of their English language results. So if they're doing IELTS, they might have to send a scanned copy of the IELTS certificate. Again, that could be via email, it could be via the portal. Really important to keep in mind that universities often have an earlier deadline for that. So while for A-level results, usually universities say that the A-level conditions have to be met by the end of August. Remember, A-level results day is mid-August. Sometimes a lot of universities nowadays are saying that IELTS conditions have to be met earlier, so potentially by the end of June or the end of July. So it's very, very important that students check the university that they have applied to and make sure they know those deadlines, because it will vary from university to university. They can't rely on their friends to tell them what the deadline is. Other things that a student could potentially be asked for. UCAS clearance will apply to a small number of our students. That is the Academic Technology Approval Scheme. It's basically a piece of anti-terrorism legislation, and there are certain degree courses, usually in the biotechnology and engineering fields, that students from overseas require an ATAS clearance to be accepted onto those courses. So students who've received an offer, the university will contact them to say that they need to apply for ATAS clearance. As I say, it will only apply to a few students. If they need to do that, then the best thing is to come and talk to me about that, and I can help them with that. Similarly, students might be asked for a what's called a disclosure and barring service certificate, or they might also be asked for a police records check from their home country. That usually applies if students are applying for a course in medicine, nursing, physiotherapy, education, social work, anything where the course is going to involve contact with the public as part of their degree course. Again, that's something that the university will contact them about, and they just need to make sure that they follow the university's instructions, and based on my previous experience, do that as soon as the university has contacted them, because these checks can take some time to do. And a final thing that they might be asked for, some of our students will still be under 18 when they start university, and in that case there may be parental consent forms that you would need to fill in, because the student will be living obviously in the community, and unlike a school, there are slightly fewer restrictions on students in terms of the monitoring and the sort of check-ins and curfews and those sorts of things at university, and so the university will request a parental consent form from you. All of those things students will be asked for. Either they will receive an email from the university, or they will receive a message through the university's applicant portal. So it is very, very important that students check their emails regularly and check the applicant portals regularly. And the other thing to keep in mind is that the universities will only ask the student for this information. So UK universities are very strict on this. Once students begin at university, or even actually once they've applied, as far as the universities are concerned, they are adults, and the relationship is between the university and the student. Unlike a school, the university will not be willing to have contact with parents or guardians, or even me, usually, because they take the duty of confidentiality to the student very seriously. And so what that means is that students need to be really, really careful and really organized, because the university will only ask them. They won't be asking me or chasing me if students haven't sent things. So I won't be able to remind them. And so they need to check. And if they don't know what to do, if they receive an email and they're not sure what to do about it, they need to make sure they come and ask. I wanted to just mention accommodation, because I know some students have been asking about that. Unfortunately, this does depend very much on the university. They all have their own deadlines and their own processes for applying for accommodation. So I can't give you a definitive answer. Normally, the student needs to have accepted the university as their firm choice, and there will then be an application deadline for them to be guaranteed a place in university managed accommodation. Not necessarily university owned. It might be that in some cities, universities have agreements with private accommodation providers. So rather like for those of you who have children living in Abacus, the part of that site is actually university accommodation that is managed by an external company, but is booked through the university. So similarly, other universities may have the same system, but students will need to apply. There will be a deadline to be guaranteed a place. The the best way to find this out is look on the university website, and again, keep a careful eye on their emails and make sure if they're not sure that they ask me. Finally, I wanted to talk about results day and what happens. So results day is the 14th of August, and on that day, our students will be able to access their A-level results through our student portal. And those will be available from 8 o'clock, 8 a.m. UK time. We'll share a reminder nearer that date for students to make sure they know how to access the portal. There will be a team of staff available on the day, and details of how to contact us will be shared too. So we will be available to talk, whether it's via Teams or email or on the phone. Universities actually receive students' results about a week before they do. So the universities will already know the students' results on results day, and they will have made most of their decisions already. And so students will actually be able to log on to the UCAS Hub and see the outcome in terms of their university applications, again, from 8 o'clock UK time on that day. And there are various things they might see. So if a student has met the conditions for their firm offer, then that's really good news, and that's pretty straightforward. Their offer will have changed. So currently, where they have a firm, once they've accepted a firm choice in UCAS, in the UCAS Hub, that choice will show as conditional firm at the moment, because it's the firm choice that they want to accept, but they haven't yet met the conditions attached to that offer. If on results day they have met those offer conditions, the offer will have changed to unconditional firm, which means that they have that place. Their place is confirmed. They don't actually need to do anything else at that point. The university will get in touch with them with the next stages. If they've met their firm choice and the place is still showing as conditional firm, that means that the university hasn't confirmed their place yet. That can happen if the university is still waiting for something. So if, for example, a student hasn't yet provided their IELTS results or provided their DBS certificate and the police check certificate, then that might mean that the place is still showing as conditional. And so they need to make sure that they provide the information required as soon as possible. If a student doesn't know why the place hasn't been confirmed, then the best thing to do is contact the university to ask, and also let me know, and then I can do as much as I can to help. If a student has met their firm choice, but has since changed their mind about where they want to go, it is possible to change their mind at that stage. It's not entirely straightforward. So a student can't at that stage just decide they're going to go to their insurance choice instead. That's not how it works. Once they've met their firm choice, they're confirmed there and their insurance choice is actually cancelled. And so if they have met their firm offer and then wish to change their mind, the way they would need to do that is to use clearing. And I will talk a bit more about clearing later. I just wanted to mention this because particularly if you have older children or if you've worked with students in the past, you might know about something called adjustment, which is a process students could use if they exceeded their firm offer. So let's say their firm offer was 3 A's and a student got, let's say, 2 A stars and an A. Because they've done better than their firm offer conditions, they could use adjustment to search for more selective universities that might still have vacancies. So it was a way of students, I guess you could say, trading up on results day. Adjustment no longer exists. However, they can do the same thing through clearing. If they want to do that, please make sure that they speak to us first, because they need to make sure that they don't decline any choices until they are absolutely sure that a university is willing to accept them. And I will say at this stage, unfortunately, Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial College and LSE basically don't use clearing. they do not have spaces available in summer because every university operates a cover ratio, and at those universities, enough students meet their offers that they don't have empty spaces. I have occasionally seen places available at UCL and King's College through clearing, but I have to say they are quite rare and often in courses that are maybe a little bit less popular. If a student on results day finds that they have missed the conditions of their firm offer, so maybe they were asked to get AAA and they got AAB, then it is possible that the firm choice might be able to be flexible and still accept them. However, as I said, that does depend on the university. It's less likely at the most selective universities, and there could be less flexibility than usual this year. It's also possible that the firm choice might decide to offer a place on a different course. So, for example, in the past, I've known students who missed their firm choice, but the university offered them a place on a slightly different course, or potentially a course including a foundation year. And at that point, the student has to decide whether or not they want to accept that. So that's their choice about whether they accept that change. If the firm choice isn't able to do that and doesn't accept them, as long as they've met their insurance choice, they will be accepted by their insurance offer. That will change to unconditional insurance because they've met the offer and their place at their insurance choice is confirmed. And at that stage, they don't need to do anything else. And by accepting the insurance offer, they've confirmed that they will go there if they don't meet the firm choice. And so that place is now confirmed. If they decide they don't want to go to their insurance choice, then again, they can still use clearing to look for an alternative. If a student misses the conditions of both their firm and their insurance offer, then again, it is possible that one of their firm or insurance choice might be able to still accept them with the caveats that I've already mentioned. Or that they might be able to offer a place on a different course. But if neither choice is able to accept them, they will be entered into clearing to look for a place. And so a student can be in clearing either because they have missed both their firm and insurance choice, or because they have chosen to decline the place that they have received. And clearing is used for students to be able to search for universities and courses that still have places to fill. That may be because the university and the course didn't receive enough applications originally to fill all their places, or it might be because some of the students who had places on that course have also missed their offers, and the university wants to see if there are better qualified students available through clearing. It is fair to say, while the very, very selective universities generally don't have many places in clearing, there are often Russell Group's universities with places in clearing. I've had many students in the past who found places at universities like Exeter and Southampton, Cardiff through clearing. Students can use the UCAS website to search. So on results day, they will actually be able to search clearing vacancies specifically. And they will, on the website, there will be a database of all the university places that are available through clearing. And what they then need to do is speak to the universities to ask whether they can be offered a place. They may need to make a phone call to do that. They may need to fill in an online form. They may be asked, particularly if maybe they are looking for a clearing place for a slightly different course from the one they originally applied for. That's perfectly possible. They can apply for anything through clearing. They may be asked to explain why they want to do the course. And again, it's really important to note that universities at that stage will only speak to the student. We're not able to call on their behalf. They want to speak to the student themselves. If a university decides that they do want to give a student a place through clearing, They will then send the student usually an email to confirm that, and they will give the student a deadline to add them as a clearing choice in UCAS. And often that deadline will be very tight. It might be that they only have until the same evening or the next morning to decide. Because clearing does happen very quickly, and universities are trying to fill places, so they don't have a lot of time to give people to make decisions. What students need to do is talk to all the universities that they're considering before they make a decision. So they need to, if they are looking for a space in clearing and they find 3 or 4 universities that look interesting, they need to talk to all of them, see which ones will offer a place, and get that information before they put anything into UCAS. Because once they enter a clearing choice in UCAS, they can only enter one, and as soon as the university accepts them, that is binding. So not like applying originally when you can enter lots of choices. A clearing choice, you decide which choice you want to accept, you put it into UCAS, and the university will then accept you. So before you do that, first of all, the university needs to have confirmed that they will give you a place. And secondly, they need to have talked to all the universities they want to. Universities, you can start entering clearing choices from 10 o'clock on results day. So just 2 hours after students get their results, they can start adding a clearing choice. It's important not to rush and to make sure that they get the information they need, but equally you can see that it is quite important that they move quickly and that they are prepared for this and make sure that they do this in good time to get the best offer. And that means it's really important to be prepared and to think about results day in advance. So there are a few things I would recommend. If students think they might need to use clearing or are concerned that they may be, it is sensible not to wait for results day, but to start their research over summer and to start thinking about what would happen if they don't get the grades that they want. What would be their plan B? Would they try and find the same degree course at a different university that has lower entry requirements? Or would they potentially look for a different course that has slightly lower entry requirements? Students can research the universities that they want to approach, so they could have a short list of universities that they might like to look at through clearing. That can actually include ones whose offers they initially declined. So universities, there is no sort of taking offence if somebody doesn't accept an offer. If the same student comes back through clearing and is interested in accepting a place there, the universities may well be very happy to accept them. So what I recommend to students is that before results day, they have a plan of what will they do if they don't get the grades, which universities would they want to approach. Make a note of their contact details. So often universities will have a clearing phone line specifically. So students can make a note of those contact details and have them ready. Some universities actually do clearing updates. So a student can sign up for those and get updates directly from the university. Keep in mind, they may need to do a short interview over the phone and discuss why they want the place. So maybe think about that. And really importantly, students need to make sure that on results day, they are somewhere where they will be able to make contact, both with the college if they need to speak to us for advice and support, but also somewhere where they can talk to universities if they need to. So make sure that they have a good phone and internet connection. That's everything that I wanted to talk about. I know I've given a lot of information there. I did share an information sheet with these details and with a few links before the Easter holiday, and we can share that again if needed. And I know this presentation is being recorded, and so if people want to re-listen and contact me with any questions, that's fine. But if anyone has any questions now, please do feel free to ask. Should the student indicate firm? Yes. So So should the student indicate firm or insurance choices in UCAS? So yes, that will be the next step. Once they've received decisions from all their universities, they will be able, in results in UCAS, in the UCAS hub, they will be able to accept a firm choice and an insurance choice. And UCAS, once they've received a decision from all their universities, UCAS will actually prompt them to do that. And certainly it's quite a straightforward process. I'm very happy to help students if they're not quite sure how to do that. So they accept two choices. They have to designate one as firm, one as insurance, and they will decline the other three. There's also a question about, do students need to stay in the UK for results day? No, I would say that's not necessary. And certainly I'm used to working with many students who are not in the UK on results day. I think the important thing is to be able to communicate with the universities, and obviously that does mean communicating, unfortunately, on UK time, which I appreciate may be a little bit irritating and frustrating for some of you if you're a long way away. I would say generally universities these days are very happy to do their communications through email, Teams chats, phone, whatever is most convenient. One thing to keep in mind, and this really depends, I think, on the student, it is possible that a lot of universities, because of clearing, have a kind of open day in mid-August for students who maybe have accepted a choice through clearing. It's not necessary to attend that, but if a student did want to go and visit, then that would obviously be an opportunity. Sending transcripts to overseas universities. Yes, please do make the request directly to me and I will organise those. As I say, it very much depends on the university. Some of them will accept the transcript from the school. Some of them I know are not willing to accept that, and they want to see the official result from the exam board. And so the students will have that through the candidate portal. But yes, please, by all means, let me know, and I can prepare transcripts for anyone who needs one. And yes, firm and insurance choices, they are confirmed by the beginning of June, so the 5th of June, before A-level results are released. So that's why there is a firm and an insurance choice, because the idea is that students don't know at that point what grades they're going to get, and therefore they need to have a firm choice that is the one that they most want to go to, and the insurance choice that is the backup in case they don't meet the conditions of the firm choice. Right, a question about university pre-sessional English courses. Okay, this is a really tricky question, actually. So some universities offer a pre-sessional English course for students who maybe haven't met the IELTS requirements. What I tend to say to students is it is really important to think carefully about that. Not every university has a pre-sessional course. And it's usually fair to say that the pre-sessional courses, students only tend to be accepted onto them if they are already very close to the IELTS requirement that the university needs. So sometimes universities will say they can only be 0.5 away in one of the IELTS requirements. The other thing to bear in mind is that pre-sessional English courses usually start before A-level results day. And what that could mean, and I've actually had this unfortunately happen to one of my students in the past, is that a student might book onto the pre-sessional English course at their first choice of university and then discover on results day that they didn't meet the offer. And so I had a student who was part way through a pre-sessional course at one university and then found he'd missed his offer and they weren't going to accept him. And so he then had to start talking to his insurance choice of university to find out whether, first of all, they would accept him, and secondly, whether they would accept the pre-sessional course that he'd done at the first university. And so this is why, as much as possible, I say to students, please do not rely on a pre-sessional English course, and make sure you work on your IELTS requirements and meet them while you're still with us in school, because then that is organised and finished and ready. If there's a concern that that's not going to happen, then I think it would certainly be sensible to have a look at the pre-sessional course and talk to the university. Again, it very much depends. Each university will have its own requirements in terms of how long that course is and what grades they're likely to accept. So again, if students need support with that, they can come and talk to me and I can have a look with them. Do students need to apply for a student visa again for university? Yes, they do, because the university at that point will be the sponsor for the visa. They cannot apply yet because to be able to apply for their visa, they have to have a CAS, a confirmation of acceptance for studies, and universities will only issue those once students have met all the conditions of their offer. So I appreciate that does mean that the CAS won't be issued until after A-level results day. And I know that can be quite tight, but yeah, generally I haven't found a problem with students getting visas in time. So the visa authorities are aware that that needs to happen quickly once A-level results day is done. So yes, but they will definitely need to reapply for a visa. Okay, if I get an offer from more than one university, would I need to pay for all the place? Generally, UK universities, they don't require deposits in advance. It would tend to be after results day that students are asked potentially to pay a deposit. So it would generally be the case that the university would until A-level results day, and then it might at that stage, once the place is confirmed, that students would be asked potentially to put down a deposit for their tuition fees, but you shouldn't be needing to pay anything now. Would like to know when strategy tutors will be discussing with students. Most likely by the end of this week. So yes, and I've said to students already, and even before the Easter holiday, that if they need to have a discussion with me about firm and insurance choices, they are able to just come and ask me, and I can sit and have that discussion with them straight away. But yes, as that will be happening very soon. Would we be able to receive guidance or advice during results day from school in the case of clearing? Yes. So there will be a team of staff available on results day, and we will be there to give guidance and advice if students need to use clearing. Contact details will be shared nearer to that date so that you know exactly how to contact us. Will students still be able to get accommodation if they go through clearing? I would say normally yes. Generally universities can't guarantee that. However, certainly I've found in the past that my students have been able to, and I think that often universities do tend to give priority as well to students from overseas who may have less chance to find their own accommodation and less ability to do that if they're having to travel from overseas. If the grade can't meet the requirement and they do a foundation year course, can they go directly into year 2 after the foundation? That very much depends on the type of foundation. So if a student, let's say that a student doesn't meet their firm choice and the university says to them, we can't accept you for the course you applied for, but we can accept you for a course including a foundation year, then no, that would be effectively a 4-year course rather than a 3-year course, and they would have to complete the foundation year and then the standard course. So in that case, no, they would be on a longer course. However, I am aware that what some students do, if they don't meet the grades for their UCAS offers, they might decide to study a foundation year at a separate institution. So I've had students who have gone to study foundation years with institutions like Into University or Kaplan. And some of those potentially do say that students can go on to year 2 after they complete what they might call an international year 1. My only concern with some of those, and I would always say to students, come and talk to me before making that decision. And that's simply because some of those foundation years, I think it's important to read the small print and to think about how many students successfully complete that foundation year, and to be aware that potentially a student may not be able to transfer that foundation year. So if a student does an international foundation year at one institution, they may then not be able to transfer to a different university to complete their degree. It may only be valid for the university it's affiliated with. So I think the most important thing, and there's a key message there, is if a student is thinking about foundation years in that way, come and talk to me and I can talk through all the implications with them. Can a student still apply for a gap year on results day? So yes, in theory they can. So if a student has, when a student has applied through UCAS, they obviously had to specify what year they wanted to start the course. And if a student is holding an offer to start in September or October this year, they can certainly ask to defer that offer and to have a gap year and start next year. However, that is entirely the university's decision. So the university has the right to say yes or no to changing that offer. Most of the time, I've found that universities are pretty willing to say yes, although, as I say, I have known a few cases where they haven't been very keen. It's also, I think, fair to say universities would like to know sooner rather than later, because that helps them to organise their planning of numbers and student numbers as well. But yes, in theory, and I have had students do this and ask on results day whether they can take a gap year. I guess there are really two choices. If the university says yes, fantastic. If the university says no, then of course they always have the option of withdrawing their place, declining, and potentially reapplying, taking the gap year anyway and reapplying the next year. So that's always a possibility. I'm sorry, I feel like I've thrown an awful lot of information at people there. I hope I've answered all your questions well enough. If anything isn't clear, if anyone does want to get in touch with me and ask a bit more, please do let me know. And I'm very happy to sort of answer by email or sort of give a fuller explanation of anything that wasn't quite clear. Oh, you're very welcome. And please do encourage your students as well. If any of them need to talk to me, they can always find me to come have a chat about anything to do with results day and how it works, but also more generally, if they want to have a chat about exams, if they're feeling anxious or concerned about anything, I'm always here to reassure them.